I wasn't invited to any of my siblings' weddings, so I decided not to invite them to mine. I have 4 older siblings, all of whom are married. None of them invited me to their weddings because each one chose to have a ceremony without children. I thought I might be the exception since I'm their brother, but the first one to get married was my older sister Leonarda. Her wedding was child-free, and the others followed her lead. When Leonarda got married, I was 10, so I understood why I wasn't invited, but I was still very upset. She married a man I liked, and I wasn't even there to see it. My next sister Fernanda got married when I was 12. Again, I wasn't invited, but I still didn't mind much because I was a well-behaved child. My brother Bernardo got married when I was 15. At first, he didn't want a child-free wedding, but the family convinced him to exclude all kids because it was easier. When I asked him to make an exception for me since I was 15, he said no. He said it wouldn't be fair to the other children. I was upset and yelled at him that it wasn't fair that I couldn't attend any of my siblings' weddings. My parents got mad at me and grounded me for 6 months. Finally, my youngest sister Gustava got married when I was 17. By then, I didn't care anymore because I knew it would be another child-free wedding and I'd be excluded. And I was right. I didn't ask about it, and my cousin who had just turned 18 was invited, but I wasn't. I didn't care, so I just sent a short message to congratulate her and ignored everything else. My parents got mad because I didn't congratulate them properly. I ignored them and spent all my time in my room with my fiancé. Now that I'm getting married, I decided not to invite any of my siblings to my wedding since they didn't invite me to theirs. When they realized they weren't invited, they started asking questions in the family group chat. Bernardo asked if there was a problem with the mail, and Fernanda directly asked why she didn't get an invitation. I just read the messages and ignored them because I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of a quick response. The next day, my mom called. As soon as I answered, she immediately started asking why I didn't invite my siblings, sounding angry like I had done something wrong. I took a deep breath and told her they didn't invite me to their weddings, so I thought it was fair to return the favor. There was silence on the other end of the phone as she tried to understand what I said. Then she exploded. She asked if my fiancé had influenced me, saying I was always so sweet but now I seem like a stranger. I almost laughed nervously because, as usual, my mom blamed someone else instead of accepting that I might be right. I told her, "It's not about her, Mom. This is my decision. They never made me feel important enough to include me in their most special moments, so I don't see why they should be at mine." She hung up on me, which was typical. The next day, the messages kept coming. Leonardo sent me a dramatic message saying, "Mario, I know you felt hurt about not being invited to my wedding, but you were just a child. It wasn't personal. I thought you would have gotten over it by now." How could she say that? They ignored me during all the important moments of their lives, and now they expected me to just get over it? I replied, "It's not about getting over it. It's about what's fair. If I wasn't important enough to be at their weddings, why should they be at mine?" It seemed fair to me. Her reply came quickly, and it was even more ridiculous. She called me a spoiled brat and said that family should always come before resentment. Now they wanted to pretend we were a close family, but where was that closeness when I was a little boy begging to go to their weddings? Things got worse when my parents decided to have an intervention. They showed up at my house without warning, thinking they could change my mind. As soon as they started talking, it was clear they cared more about what people would think than about me. My mom said, "What will people think of us, Mario? What kind of person doesn't invite their own siblings to their wedding?" She spoke like I had done something terrible. I tried to explain again that this was about all the years of ignoring me, but my dad interrupted, calling me childish and selfish. That's when I lost my patience. I said, "Childish and selfish?" I was a child when I begged to go to their weddings, and everyone said I was dramatic. Now, as an adult, they want to pretend that never happened. I'm sorry, but I'm not changing my mind. They're not coming to my wedding, and if you keep treating me like this, neither will you. The room went silent. My mom looked like she might faint, and my dad turned bright red. Without saying anything else, they left and slammed the door. In the weeks that followed, they called me spiteful and ungrateful. My siblings tried to make me feel guilty, saying I was ruining the family. Bernardo even tried to appeal emotionally, saying my nieces were excited about the wedding and it would be cruel to leave them out. This time, I ignored them. On my wedding day, I felt a huge sense of relief. The ceremony was exactly how I wanted it, full of love and surrounded by people who truly cared about me. As I danced with my wife, I thought about how, for the first time, I had control over my life. Later, I found out that my mom had organized a separate dinner for my siblings on the same day as a kind of silent protest. I found it pathetic. They could comfort themselves however they wanted, but it wouldn't change the fact that, for the first time, I had stood up for myself, and that was liberating. After the wedding, I thought everything would settle down. It felt like a turning point in my life. The flowers, the music, the food, and the people were perfect, all surrounded by genuine love. I didn't feel the absence of anyone. But as always, peace didn't last. A few days later, the comments started. First, there were indirect remarks in the family group chat. Bernardo was the first, saying, "We saw some pictures of your wedding. Why did those flowers look so basic?" I tried to ignore it, but it started to irritate me. Then Fernanda added, "And the venue? I don't know, it looked more like an impromptu party than a wedding. You could have asked us for help. Didn't she know I had blocked everyone from my social media? How had they seen the photos?" It turned out they got them through mutual friends, which bothered me even more. Not only had they invaded a moment I had deliberately excluded them from, but they were also criticizing something they hadn't even experienced. I took a deep breath and forced myself not to respond, but it was hard. The last straw came when my mom called. She didn't waste any time with small talk. When I answered the phone, my mom immediately started criticizing me. "Mario, what was that wedding? I saw the pictures, and honestly, I expected more from you. Everything looked so simple, nothing like your siblings' weddings. That suit? You deserved something more glamorous. Why didn't you have it in a church? Your brother had something much nicer. That wedding didn't seem worthy of our family." For a moment, I was speechless, not because I agreed, but because I was shocked by how rude she was. I tried not to explode, and when I finally spoke, my voice was cold. "Mom, the only thing that wasn't worthy here was you. You weren't even invited, yet you feel entitled to criticize. You saw pictures of something you shouldn't have seen. If you didn't like it, fine, because I didn't plan anything to please you." She got angry but didn't back down. "You're being so selfish, Mario, really. Do you think you can just cut us out of your life? That's not normal. You've always been resentful, and now you're taking it out on us. What did we do to deserve this?" That was the last straw. I couldn't stay calm anymore. "What did you do? Let's refresh our memories, Mom. You ignored me during the most important moments of my life. I was never important enough to be at my own siblings' weddings. But now you expect me to include you in mine as if nothing happened? That's hypocrisy. And the most ironic thing? The only thing that could have ruined my wedding was inviting you." There was silence on the phone. I thought maybe she'd finally understood, but no. She took a deep breath and said with contempt, "You're ungrateful. We did everything for you, and this is how you repay us? You're abandoning your family for a woman who barely just came into your life. You'll regret this." I hung up before she could say more. I was tired of arguing with someone who would never admit their mistakes. But the drama didn't stop there. My siblings, clearly encouraged by my mom, started sending me non-stop messages in the family group chat. Bernardo wrote, "You've destroyed the family, Mario. Congratulations on pushing away everyone who ever loved you." Fernanda, as always, made a show of it. "I hope the wife you chose is worth it because you've lost everything for her." I read everything silently while my wife watched, knowing it hurt me but not wanting to get involved. After a few minutes, I left the group chat without replying. It wasn't worth it. The next days were full of private messages and calls, all of which I ignored. My mom even showed up at my door unannounced, but I didn't let her in. "Mom, there's no point. You only know how to criticize and belittle me. I don't want any more of that in my life." She yelled from outside, "Family is forever, Mario. You can't just eliminate us because you're hurt." I opened the door just enough to reply, "Family should mean support, respect, and love, not manipulation and constant criticism. If that's all you have to offer, then yes, I can eliminate you from my life. And that's exactly what I'm going to do." I closed the door while she kept yelling, but I didn't pay attention. I had already made my decision. Since then, I've cut off all contact with them. The few times they tried to reach out, it was with more accusations and criticism, but I no longer had the patience for it. Now, my life is focused on me and my wife. We've built a relationship based on respect and love, everything my family never gave me. Looking back, I know walking away was the best decision. I don't miss anything, and I don't feel guilty. I'm finally at peace, living a happy life and knowing I don't owe anything to people who never truly valued me. My life is calmer and happier than I ever imagined it could be. Since I cut off contact with my family, I feel like I can finally breathe. My wife and I are focused on building a solid life based on love and respect, something I never had with my family. Recently, something very special happened. We found out my wife is pregnant. It was an amazing moment when we saw the positive result. Tears filled my eyes, and my wife hugged me tightly, saying, "We're going to raise this baby with so much love that they'll never want for anything." From the start, we knew our child would only be surrounded by people who truly cared for them, which meant my family had no place in their life. However, as always, news travels fast. I'm not sure how they found out, maybe through a distant relative or a mutual acquaintance, but soon I started receiving messages. The first one was from my mom, "Mario, I heard about the baby. I want you to know that despite everything, we're your family, and it's important for the baby to have their grandparents around." I didn't reply. My wife and I had already decided that they wouldn't have any contact with our child. It wasn't because I wanted to be cruel, but because I couldn't risk exposing my child to the same toxic behavior I had endured all my life. After my mom's message, my siblings started messaging too. Bernardo, as usual, tried to manipulate me. "Congratulations on the baby, Mario. Despite all the fights, we're siblings, and I know you'll need support. We're here for you and the baby." Fernanda, of course, was more direct. "Hold on to your grudge if you want, but at least let us meet our niece or nephew. They deserve to know they have a big family." I read everything in silence while my wife, as always, stood by my side. She took my hand and said, "You don't have to reply. You don't owe them anything. This is our moment, and we only need those who truly care about us." She was right. The following week, my mom showed up at our house unannounced. When I opened the door and saw her with an expression that seemed like regret, my heart clenched for a moment, but I didn't let it affect me. Before she could say anything, I was direct. "Mom, don't insist. You're not a part of my life, and you won't be a part of my child's life either." She tried to argue. "Mario, you can't do this. We're your family. This baby is part of us too." I replied firmly, "I'm not going to let my child go through what I went through. I want them to grow up surrounded by true love, without manipulation, without criticism, without emotional games. That's something you and the others never knew how to offer." She started to cry, but I knew those tears weren't real regret. They were because she wasn't getting what she wanted. Before she could continue, I closed the door. It was painful, but it was necessary. Since then, the messages and attempts at contact have continued, but they no longer affect me. My focus now is on my wife's pregnancy and our baby. We're planning everything with so much love and care, and I can't wait to start this new chapter of our lives. Some might say it's selfish to keep my family away from the baby, but for me, this is about protection. I won't allow any toxic influence near my child. Today, I am at peace with my decision. I know my child will grow up in a safe and loving home, and that's all that matters. My family can keep blaming me and saying I'm wrong, but I don't care anymore. For the first time, I have control over my life and the life we're bringing into the world, and that is freeing. As my wife's pregnancy progressed, we created a peaceful bubble around ourselves. Our home became a sanctuary of joy and anticipation. We painted the nursery together, chose furniture, and spent evenings reading parenting books. Everything was perfect until my sister Leonarda somehow got our new address. One day, a large package arrived. Inside was an expensive baby bassinet with a note, "For my future niece or nephew. Family heirlooms should be passed down. Leonarda." My wife found me staring at it, hand shaking. Without a word, she helped me pack it back up. We donated it to a local women's shelter the same day. But Leonarda's gift opened the floodgates. Soon, packages started arriving from all my siblings. Fernanda sent designer baby clothes. Bernardo shipped a handmade rocking chair that he claimed took him months to craft. Gustava mailed photo albums of our childhood filled with sticky notes pointing out happy family memories I should remember. Each gift felt like a weapon, carefully chosen to pierce through the walls I'd built. My wife noticed how each package affected me, how I'd grow quiet and distant. One evening, after a particularly difficult day when my mom had sent a box full of my own baby things, my wife sat me down. "They're trying to buy their way back into our lives," she said softly, her hand resting on her growing belly. "But we don't owe them access to our child just because they're sending gifts." She was right, of course. That night, we drafted a formal cease and desist letter with help from our lawyer. It felt extreme but necessary. The gifts stopped, but the emotional warfare continued through other channels. My siblings started a social media campaign, sharing old family photos and writing long posts about family healing and forgiveness. They tagged mutual friends, trying to pressure me through our social circle. Some distant relatives I barely knew started messaging me about doing the right thing. The final straw came during my wife's baby shower. We'd carefully planned it with our chosen family, close friends who'd supported us through everything. But halfway through the celebration, my mom and sisters showed up uninvited, carrying more gifts and wearing sad, martyred expressions. I saw my wife's face tighten with anxiety, watched our friends shift uncomfortably. Before they could make a scene, I met them at the door. "This is a private event," I said firmly. "You need to leave." "We're family," my mom protested, trying to push past me. "You can't keep us from celebrating our grandchild." "This isn't your grandchild," I replied, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "You lost that privilege when you chose to treat me like a stranger for most of my life. Security will escort you out if necessary." Leonardo tried emotional manipulation one last time. "Mario, please, we've all made mistakes. When you become a parent, you'll understand the importance of family." "No," I said, feeling stronger than ever. "When I become a parent, I'll understand how crucial it is to protect my child from toxic relationships, even if they're family. Especially if they're family." They left, but not before making sure everyone heard their tearful protests. Later, my wife squeezed my hand and whispered, "You did the right thing." Our true friends rallied around us, sharing stories of their own experiences with family boundaries, making us feel less alone. The months that followed were peaceful. We took birthing classes, prepared our home, and focused on the joy of becoming parents. My wife's pregnancy progressed beautifully, and watching her grow with our child filled me with more love than I'd ever known. When she went into labor, we had our birth plan ready. The hospital staff knew exactly who was allowed in and, more importantly, who wasn't. My wife's parents, who had always respected our boundaries and shown us genuine love, were our only family support. Our son was born on a crisp autumn morning, perfect and healthy, with 10 tiny fingers and 10 tiny toes. As I held him for the first time, looking into his curious eyes, I made a silent promise: he would never know the pain of exclusion, the sting of conditional love, or the weight of family manipulation. The messages started pouring in as soon as word got out, congratulations mixed with guilt trips, joy tainted with manipulation. Bernardo sent a particularly nasty text: "Your son will grow up ashamed of how you've torn this family apart." I looked at my newborn son sleeping peacefully in my wife's arms and felt nothing but certainty. He would grow up surrounded by authentic love, not the performance of family loyalty my siblings had perfected. As weeks passed, we settled into life with our baby. Every milestone was celebrated by people who genuinely cared for us: his first smile, first laugh, first time rolling over, all witnessed by our chosen family who showed up with food, help, and unconditional support. When he was 3 months old, my mom made one final attempt. She appeared at our door, clutching a handmade blanket and crying, "Please, Mario, let me hold my grandson just once. I'm his grandmother." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the same woman who had dismissed my pain for years, who had chosen appearances over love, who had never once apologized for the real hurt she'd caused. "No, Mom," I said gently. "You're not his grandmother. You're just the woman who taught me exactly what kind of parent I don't want to be." She left the blanket on our doorstep. We donated it like all the other gifts and continued building our life. Our son is 6 months old now, thriving in an environment of consistent love and respect. He'll never know the pain of being the excluded child, the family afterthought. Sometimes friends ask if I worry about him missing out on extended family. I look at our home filled with photos of the people who choose to love us properly, friends who became family, my wife's parents who show up with respect and joy, neighbors who bring casseroles and genuine care. He's not missing anything, I tell them. He's surrounded by real family. Last week, we received an invitation to Leonardo's daughter's wedding. It was clearly a peace offering, an attempt to bridge the gap. My wife found me looking at it, lost in thought. "What are you thinking?" she asked, our son babbling happily in her arms. I took the invitation and dropped it in the recycling bin. "I'm thinking about cycles," I said, reaching for our boy, "and how proud I am that we broke them." She smiled, understanding completely. Our son will grow up knowing his worth isn't measured by family name or tradition but by the authentic connections he builds. He'll learn that love shouldn't come with conditions, that family is earned through actions, not claimed through blood. As I write this, he's sleeping peacefully in his crib, surrounded by the drawings and photos of people who love him unconditionally. There are no family heirlooms in his room, no antique furniture weighed down by obligation. Instead, every item was chosen with care and joy by people who have proven their love through respect and understanding. The journey hasn't been easy, but it has been worth it. Every time I look at my son's innocent face, I know we made the right choice. He will grow up free from the burden of toxic family dynamics, free to choose his own path, free to understand that love should lift you up, not weigh you down. And that's the greatest gift I could give him, the freedom to be loved exactly as he is, by people who know how to love properly.